Well, if you didn't have enough drama last week with the Supreme Court, we've got a whole lot more coming in the next term. We got Peter Landers joining us now from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for joining us, Peter. Really appreciate your time, as always. It's been seemingly forever since you were on the show.
Love to do it, Simon. Glad we had a chance to talk about something other than the healthcare law this week.
Yes, something other than the healthcare law. So that was controversial and will continue to be so. But if there's not enough controversy, more coming. Tell us about it.
Well, one of the interesting cases that we wrote about in Monday's paper, Brent Kendall of our bureau wrote about the coming cases, is this hospital case from Georgia. There are all these hospitals across the country that are merging, and in some cases gaining a dominant or even monopolistic, it seems, position in their local markets. And there's a case from Albany, Georgia, where one hospital was buying another hospital, and according to the Federal Trade Commission, gaining a dominant position in that market. And they're trying to block that merger, but the acquiring hospital is affiliated with some state body, and so they're saying you can't sue us, we're part of the state of Georgia, and we're immune from this kind of antitrust lawsuit. So it involves antitrust, it involves hospitals, but it does actually, I should say, maybe affect healthcare as well, but it does involve this merger boom across the country of hospitals.
No, that's interesting. That sort of reminds me of that thing in that Frost versus Nixon, where Nixon says when the president lies, it isn't a crime.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting there. I imagine that's going to be controversial whichever way that goes, right?
That's right. It's something that the healthcare industry is watching closely. It could affect even other industries where you have some sort of state bodies getting involved in telecoms or that kind of thing. So that's something we'll be watching next term.
Okay. Now, Georgia Pacific and the American Forest and Paper Association are involved in a suit too. Tell us about that, because this is fascinating.
This is one I'd like to dig into more as we enter next term. Maybe Brent can go out to Oregon and investigate this further. But what you have
is that why he wrote the story, so he could go to Oregon?
Well, reporters have been known to do this kind of thing, to whet your appetite with an interesting preview and then tell you they've got to go out to the site. Now, what we have are these people logging in forests, and they build roads, and some environmentalists say the water runoff, that there's a runoff of the water, and it affects the clean streams and so on in that area of the country. And they want the EPA to regulate these forest roads under the Clean Water Act. Now, even the EPA in this case, now under the Obama administration, a lot of people accuse the EPA of overbearing regulation. Even the EPA in this case says this is not something we regulate. The roads shouldn't be subject to this kind of permitting. And so it's a case where the Ninth Circuit out in California, which often is considered the most liberal in the country, ruled in favor of the environmentalists, and the Supreme Court is taking a chance to review this ruling. So possibly they'll swing that in a more friendly direction for Georgia Pacific. We'll have to see.
We shall see. Is it expected that Chief Justice Roberts will maintain his pro-business stance? He has a bit of a reputation for that.
I think so. I mean, one thing, of course, he sided with the liberals in this healthcare case, and maybe that will overwhelm anything else that he does in his tenure as Chief Justice, which may last for decades more from here on out. But if you look at the more sort of humble day-to-day cases where businesses are bringing their cases before the Supreme Court and have a couple $100 million or a couple billion at stake, pretty reliably, not always, but pretty reliably, the Chief Justice and his 5-justice conservative majority can be counted on to rule in favor of the corporation, whether it be a Walmart in the sex discrimination suit, AT&T, and now they're going to take a Comcast case in the next term. We'll see how they rule on that one.
Yeah, let's talk about the Comcast case, because this is TV subscribers feeling they're not getting a fair deal.
That's right, and here again, it's a class action. It's a group that wants to be classified as a class action, as a class to take on Comcast, and if they were, that could lead to liability of more than $800 million, says Comcast. So many times you have large corporations, you have a group of customers that maybe loses $10 or $100 a piece, each of them has no interest in suing. It wouldn't be worth their while. And you have some trial lawyers who try to take on the case and pool all these claims into one gigantic litigation. And you see the ads in the paper sometimes. They'll say, you know, if you were a customer in 2005 of such and such a company, you might be owed $100. And so these trial lawyers, they want to pool it. The large corporations, they always want to stop that. And in the Walmart case, the Supreme Court sided in favor of Walmart, and Comcast is hoping to use that precedent to block this class from being certified in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware.
Okay, well, we shall see. It all kicks off October 1st, right? It sounds like it's going to be
That's right.
very exciting.